Back to My Garden, episode 21.
Welcome to Back to My Garden. Discover your passion for gardening. Here's Dave Ledoux.
Attention flower lovers. Get a free online catalog and 10% off your first order of bulbs at Bloomin' Bulbs. I set up a special link just for podcast listeners. Simply go to www.backtomygarden.com/bulb for your unique bonus. This episode of Back to My Garden sponsored by Coffee Royalty. Can you really lose 5, 10, even 20 pounds or more just by switching your coffee or tea? Discover how to drink it for free at www.backtomygarden.com/coffee. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world when you listen to this. I'm Dave Ledoux. Welcome to another edition of Back to My Garden. If you can hear in my voice, I'm excited about this one. We are going into uncharted territory on this show. Our guest today is from the east coast of Canada in Nova Scotia. He is with Ledoux Natural Farms. Logie Cassells has been on the cutting edge of, let's call it, new food. He threw out a bold prediction off show. He says, I predict that my berry is going to outsell the blueberry in less than a decade. And then I heard something about making wonderful alcohol, and I just said, we got to start recording. So, Logie, welcome to the call.
Thank you very much. But I would preface that it is not my berry. The berry has been around a long time. I think the first academic paper was written by a Russian in about 1784. So, this berry has been around a long time, and was introduced into Canada in the early 1920s. But I think one of the things that's held this berry back is just a lack of knowledge in terms of when to eat it. A lot of people who you talk to about honeyberries or Haskap, when they, if they've tried it, they say it's very, very tart. And one of the main, quirks with regards to Haskap, it has a fused ovary, so it's a berry within a berry. So the outer berry may appear ripe, but the inner berry is not. So I think a lot of people who have tasted Haskap and gone, basically, not grown it in their garden, have done so with incorrect information.
Now, for those of you driving in your car, keep both hands on the wheel. I know we just kind of leapt midstream into this. Let's back you up a little bit. I'll put Logie's website on the show notes on the blog. It's www.lehavenaturalfarms.com. That's LahaveNaturalFarms.com. The product is called the Haskap berry, but more specifically, their juice, Haskapa. Wait till you see the product shots on the blog. It's gorgeous. They won Best New Entrant in the World Juice Awards. This is not just some local farmer's market. This is the World Juice Awards in Cologne, Germany in 2013. And then as a company, they're passionate about making a positive impact on the future of agriculture. They have a little bit more than your average garden. I think, what do you guys have, 40 acres now?
Currently, yes, and we'll be planting another 20 this year, taking it up to 60.
Okay, so now we brought the listeners up to speed. This is a very unique plant. I want to back up a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the history of your company.
This company was founded in 2010 by a group of friends who had passion for, food and forestry. And that's why the original company, or the current company, is called Ledoux Forests. Then we very luckily discovered Haskap berry by the wonderful tool called Google. And we typed in new Canadian superberry. And all of a sudden, this wonderful picture of this berry appeared in Google. It kind of pricked my attention. And I just got a good feeling about it. It was quite hard to get plants or knowledge about it back in 2010. But we spent about a year researching it, putting a test plot in, visiting the University of Saskatchewan, visiting Maxine Thompson in Oregon, because I guess given my earlier background, which is kind of solving financial puzzles, which I kind of left in 2002, because I personally thought agriculture is the next big growth industry, because we can't really eat any worse, and agriculture seemed to me in a very similar state as the financial world did in the early 80s. No one knew where it was going. But I think, or our belief is that if you concentrate on value added, or you follow a wine or a vineyard model in the berry industry, or with this new berry, I think you can be very pleasantly surprised if you choose to start a Haskap orchard, or just to grow Haskap in your backyard.
I know your listeners are wondering, how did you find this guy, Dave? Well, let me tell you the story. Last summer, we planted 3 Haskaps in our back bed. And the only thing I knew is it was called the swamp honeysuckle. It was from Saskatchewan. It said it had purple fruit, and you needed at least 2, like a male and a female, or 2 different kinds. So we bought 3. And I posted a little video on YouTube, and a comment said you didn't eat them when they were ripe. I fell into that category, Logie. I ate basically a raw, because it had just turned purple.
Yeah.
And it tasted like an unripe grape, very pleasant. That's how we met. Social media, of course, it's quite a technology. What I didn't know about you and you didn't know about me is a good friend of mine has one of the largest blueberry farms in the world in the Okanagan.
Oh, right.
His grandpa moved from India and said one day the blueberry will be the biggest fruit in the world. And today they have 700 employees because somebody called it a superfruit. Can you talk a little bit about the berry itself?
The berry is very lucky because it's 2 berries in one berry. So by definition, you're getting 2 slugs of health for one little berry. As we know, in a general sense, the minerals are in the skins and the vitamins are in the juice. So, one of the, I guess, quirks of the Haskap is that the inside fruit, because of this, the kind of 2 berries in one, is very, very dark purple. So it's one of the only berries that that the meat of the berry is very dark purple. So it just kind of, if you're basically, either defrosting Haskap berries or you're eating fresh Haskap, it looks very bloody. It looks like you've had a major accident. But, don't worry about white carpets and things, because if you put, just say lemon juice into water, that will easily bring out that wonderful, deep burgundy red potential stain in your carpet or your clothes. So, the Haskap is a very healthy berry because of the factors I talked about. Now, we are looking or researching, whether the antioxidants, etc., really do stack up. Now, there's a lot of research has already been done in Russia and Japan, but we just feel a bit like we're following the palm route. Although we don't have their wonderful resources to discover or to prove some of the health claims, which vary from improving eyesight, lowering blood pressure, curing stomach flu. But the key thing that we really highlight on in the Haskap is that, or in fruit in general, is a lot of people have forgotten what real food tastes like. And we're using the Haskap grown in healthy soil with that wonderful terroir that we have up in Nova Scotia to kind of prove, well, if you grow Haskap healthily, like a gardener, not like a farmer, you will be very pleasantly surprised with that wonderful taste that the Haskap offers. And one of the great things that we've found out, a bit like the wine industry, which the terroir is just so important, it's equally important in the Haskap. The Haskap berry has more tannin than many grapes, and is in some cases juicier than many grape varieties. So it lends itself for wonderful alcohol. The red wine is very good. We've made port because the richness of the juice just lends itself for that type of application. But we've even made beers. We did an experimental Haskap stout with the wonderful brewer Sweetwater down in Atlanta, which was marvelous. So it is a wonderful healthy berry, but we would never say that you should give up all food, and just eat Haskap. Haskap should be, I believe, part of people's daily lives. Whether it's a juice, fruit, dried, a snack, even a Haskap beer. And I just think, that will make it more fun. Because I think, you give Haskap to creative people, whether they're chefs, whether they're brewers, whether they're, cupcake manufacturers, they can do wonderful things with it because of the taste and the color.
Wow. So for my friends out there who love the cooking side of the gardening equation, 15 years ago, nobody had heard of a noni. A decade ago, nobody had heard of mangosteen or goji. Look at the power of acai now. Nobody outside of Brazil knew that a decade ago. And now out of little old Canada, here comes the honeyberry Haskap. Imagine... Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. I mean, it's, the Soviets... it's quite interesting if you look at, the two countries that have kind of kept this the world's best tasting secret. The Soviets, did send their astronauts, it's claimed, into space, to keep them healthy. They have done a lot of academic research on it. The kind of Haskap official kind of research station is St. Petersburg. But in terms of commercially, they have never really developed it. So it's been really much a farmer's market fruit. In Japan, where they've got very limited kind of wild Haskap orchards, they've kind of, again, kept it they've kept it a secret in Hokkaido. They've made wonderful kind of gift type confectionery or food with it. So both these countries have never really exported it, and it kind of came to Canada when the Japanese unfortunately built a oil refinery on their largest Haskap patch in Hokkaido, and asked the Canadians because they respected Canadian agriculture, to come up with some varieties that we could grow and export to Japan, which some growers do. And then people like us got involved and thought this was really just too much of a good thing just to export to Japan. We should be making value-added things with it. We also were very lucky to meet up with Lydia Delafield from Berries Unlimited in Arkansas, who have introduced us to some new fantastic, I guess, Russian-dominated varieties of the Haskap berry, or the honeyberry, as she calls it. And she really has been a font of all knowledge, really. Just down to the pruning strategies where you don't really prune Haskap, or you don't really have to prune Haskap at all, like a grape or a blueberry. Because it's just a wonderful, natural growing bush, which literally grows from the start of the ground to 5 feet up to about 4 feet wide, which from an orchard perspective is fantastic, because after the third year, the bush is so dense, you don't have to weed the rows. So, the whole bush, I would argue, just lends itself to be managed in an orchard fashion very cost effectively, and it just, loves healthy soil.
Wow. Logie, help me out here. I have 3 varieties. My favorite is the berry blue.
Yep.
When we talk varieties, any idea how many types there are, and what do you use in your award-winning beverage?
I guess the honeyberries, started in terms of varieties, and berry blue is kind of one of those when Jim Gilbert introduced the honeyberry from kind of Russian stock in the, I think, 80s and 90s. And Berry Blue was probably the best one of those. Now, a lot of people think it's the pollinator because they don't really like to plant it because the berries, they say, are too tart. But if you actually allow the Berry Blue or the berries to mature properly, you can get them to a brick of 15, 16, and they have a lovely tarty zinginess to them. Now, they're not as sweet as some of the University of Saskatchewan varieties, maybe Tundra or Indigo Gem. But it is our belief to kind of just follow Krug Champagne's kind of methodology. There are 19 different varieties of grape in their fabulous champagne, vintage champagne. And that is what we're working towards with our juice. So, for example, now there are probably about 3 or 4 different varieties of Haskap in our juice, and Berry Blue is one of them. But going down the road, we have kind of selected about 17, 19 different varieties, which we love to taste. And then our kind of juice of the future, which I believe will be a lot better than it is now, will have a blend of those 19 varieties of Haskaps, which we sell on our website. Because one of the, I guess, the unique things that we offer is that I would never sell, a Haskap plant that we don't grow in our orchard. So, what we sell is what we grow. Because really, at the end of the day, yes, we sell Haskap plants, but we're really here to educate the general public to what a wonderful, fruit this is if you're a small gardener or if you're a potential, commercial grower. Because one of the great things I said is all about the story. And to a certain extent, Brad, I think the next upwave in agriculture it's theatre. In the sense that we're reconnecting people with agriculture, reminding them that food is wonderful. And, orchards are a thing of beauty. If you walk into your traditional blueberry, orchard, it can be just a weed fest because, that berry farmer has woken up early April, May, and the first thing he's done when he puts his first step in the orchard, he's worried about the berry price. He says, oh my God, can it get any lower? Whereas a vineyard person doesn't grow grapes, he grows bottles of wine. And that's a completely different mentality because, he's saying, yeah, I'm going to grow the grapes and not sell grapes for $1 a pound. I'm going to produce a beautiful bottle of red wine or champagne and sell it for, $25, $50 a bottle. That's the model that we encourage people to follow. So, you're not growing Haskap berries, you're maybe growing bottles of Haskap juice or Haskap cheese or Haskap jam. Because, as I said, although we are strong believers that, you should go into agriculture because that's a place that no one thinks they should go, therefore they should go there. But it's really the value added. It's using that creativity, with Haskap. Or it could be anything. It could be like some of the things that get me up in the morning is, young guys like, for example, a local apple farmer who doesn't want to grow apples for the commodity market anymore. She wants to produce cider, and one of those types of cider is going to be Haskap cider. So it's those sort of things that kind of change a region because you're doing value added, you're employing people. You're doing it naturally. It's great taste, and it's a story. People buy stories. People do talk about brands a lot, but really, brands are stories. A brand is a story of what it represents. You buy into that brand or story, and I think if you are in this next upwave of agriculture, the story of your product or your orchard is very important.
Wow, powerful stuff, folks. Instead of buying 1,000 shares of Facebook stock, consider getting into agriculture and actually creating something of value that people want. Wow. My mind is reeling, actually. Spinning. But I have a more practical question because I did harvest my first crop of berries way too early. But part of my challenge was I'm not the only one that likes those berries. it has become a magnet for robins and their babies.
Yeah. I mean, a very good point. I mean, it is interesting that humans will quite willingly pick a Haskap too early and go yuck, whereas the birds know exactly when to harvest. I mean, to give you an example of that, I would say a day before we started the harvest here, and the Haskap were a brick of around about 15, 16, the first robins and cedar waxwings just suddenly appeared. Now, we have never seen cedar waxwings at this time of year in the province, and I don't know who told them. I don't know which bongo drums were beating to get those cedar waxwings here from Saskatchewan or wherever they came from. But yes, I mean, birds are the main pest. Luckily raccoons aren't a pest because the Haskap berry is the first berry in the season to ripen. So, a lot of the traditional critters are eating other things. But yes, I mean, you really have to net. So I would use, I'm always, believe that, my mom's American, she always said, Logie, remember the glass is half full and half empty. One of so you have to turn the birds into a positive. And the great thing about birds is that they will tell you when the berries are ripe. So net those berries. We usually start netting the berries when they just start to turn purple, and that here is about early June to mid June. And then then if you get a refractometer, or you'll know by taste or just kind of education. Because there's Haskap blue and Haskap blue. When a Haskap berry is ripe, it is literally kind of black blue rather than light blue.
Fantastic. Now, for those of you who have not seen it, it is a unique shape. It's shaped unlike any other berry you've ever seen. Head over to LaHaveNaturalFarms.com. Take a look at the photography. The presentation is just gorgeous. What was it like to get international accolades for something you've poured your guts into?
It was good. I mean, it's in Nova Scotia, we're trying to set up, not just trying to develop our brand, but we're trying to, encourage a Haskap industry within Nova Scotia. Because, personally, I think, one of the best areas to grow Haskap is kind of, if you take some points, Halifax, Toronto, and New York, so Southern Ontario, upstate New York, because the Haskap berry really does lend itself to be grown in around about the 49th parallel. I mean, you can grow it. We've got a test spot in Chile, but, you've got to spend a lot of money in Chile in terms of, with water. So, it was a great accolade, or it was confirmation that, we were going down the right track. But, at the end of the day, Dave, we're lucky rather than smart. I mean, the whole, the person who has the limelight is the berry. It's the elevator pitch is just, taste the product and you get it. So we were just, we are very passionate and we work very hard, bringing or trying to bring Haskap into people's daily lives. But I would say, we're extremely lucky as opposed to people with goji berry or acai berry, which I don't think tastes very nice, or you can't make, many wonderful things, with that berry, or you can't grow it in the northern climates. So, I just think that we were lucky enough to find this new berry. And the fact that we, won an award after 2 years of starting, I think goes more to the potential of the berry rather than, we're very smart.
Fantastic. Where would a new person, just kidding, maybe they have a backyard garden or a patio garden, where would they start?
I think it's, I think just like you did. I mean, it's, you started with 3 varieties. And I think, you can grade on average, each Haskap bush will give you 8 pounds of berries. And we try and encourage, the home gardener to start with 3, maybe 4, depending on the size of the garden. But, just just as in the old days, you had a vegetable patch. Part of that vegetable patch traditionally used to have a berry patch. Now, I guess traditional berries are, raspberries, strawberries. But the great thing of the Haskap is that there's no real pruning or kind of weeding needed with regard to mature bushes or mature plants. So, I would treat this, like any plant you're putting in your vegetable garden. If you put it in with, into healthy soil, you don't really have to do much at all. I mean, a lot of people say, come to us and say, hey, your Haskaps are a lot healthier than ours. And we just basically say, well, the main reason for that is our soil is probably healthier than yours. And because our soil is healthier than yours, the root of the Haskap is bigger, therefore the plant is bigger. If the key thing people forget is that what happens below the surface is more important than above the surface. Because we don't grow plants, the soil does. We harvest plants, but I would say we've got to get back into the old-fashioned methodology of healthy soil, healthy plant, healthy food, and healthy people. And unfortunately, with synthetic pesticides or fertilizers, we've kind of forgotten that simple chain. I just have to think, we just have to go back to that simple chain. So, if you're a home gardener, yes, the Haskap will grow in pots, but I think really to get the true wonderful taste of the Haskap berry or honeyberry, plant it in a nice, on a 10-foot row, 4 feet wide, in good sunlight. Although Haskap berries need warmth rather than sunlight to ripen, and you'll be very, very well rewarded in future years. I mean, yes, you will have to remember to bird net, but that's not I think that's a fair price to have such a wonderful tasting berry in your back garden. And the other great thing, Dave, is this doesn't need acidic soil. Whoever was the marketing genius who convinced half the world to acidic their soil, if that's such a word, to basically, and it costs a lot of money to do that, to grow blueberries, and then see the price collapse from whatever it is, $1.50 to 50 cents, was a marketing genius. And the great thing about the Haskap, it will grow very well between 5.5 and 7.5. We think the best pH for this plant is around about 6.4. So it's very easy to grow, and with much pruning. It's maybe you're 5, maybe you're 10. Pruning it like a rose, clearing the center out. It's if you look after it, it will reward you with wonderful tasting berries, and give you lots of things to do with those berries. Whether it's, as I said, smoothies, maybe your own Haskap juice, Haskap berries and muffins on your cereal. And you make a good point with the shape of the berries. I would say the main difference of varieties are the shape of the berries rather than the taste. And what we like to do is mix all the berries together, not for our juice, but also for our fresh. So it's a bit like a kind of, it's a bit like Lucky Charms to a certain extent. I mean, a lot healthier than Lucky Charms. But we found the consumer just loves the odd shapes. I mean, we've got a new variety coming out of Berries Unlimited next year called the Blue Banana, which is shaped like a miniature blue banana. So, so it's just getting back to that adage that, we're reminding that, real food should be good to taste and fun to eat.
Whoa. I'm, as my friends in England say, I'm gobsmacked. You mentioned
yes.
poundages on the bushes. I'm here thinking I never got a yield like that. And then my soil is clay. I really have to get serious about feeding my bushes because
it's it's the biology. Remember, why do you put compost on soil? It's not necessarily to feed the plant. It's to introduce those bacteria and fungi into the soil to help break down that soil. Those kind of being biology that eventually feeds the plant. So you always have to remember, when you're planting any plant, the first thing you have to ask, whether it's lavender or Haskap, where has this plant come from? So if it's lavender, Mediterranean, it's going to want to be baked, and it hates wet feet. So if you have a very wet patch of the garden that you put lavender in, you've got to add gravel or extra drainage. Haskap naturally evolves at the edge of the forest, which is a very hard area. So you're not protected by the forest, or you're not in the prairie. So it needs a fungal biology. And you can help get that, if your soil is clay, by mixing wood chips, well-rotted wood chips and compost into that soil to basically, I guess, help break it down structurally to add more organic matter. And also to introduce a kind of fungal biology which will help keep the plant because you have to remember is that if you have pests on your plants in your garden or in your orchard, that is a symptom of man. Plants have not evolved over thousands of years to grow unhealthily. Man has contributed to that factor. Now, man has done it in many ways, but again, that's what we're getting back. We're just matching the requirements of that plant to the soil, and the soil grows the plant. The brick will be above 12. It'll be healthy, and you should not get any insect kind of outbreak on that plant.
Logie, I was just getting ready to go grab my notes to start the podcast, and I realized the half hour has flown by. This has been ridiculous how intense. Your passion is just coming through the cyberspace. I actually want to give you the last word. We have a lot of listeners who are beginning gardeners. I want everyone listening, please go to lahavenaturalfarms.com, check out the site, get your hands involved in the Haskap movement, get their products. Logie, for a last word, do you have any pearls of wisdom or a note of encouragement for our gardeners out there?
I would just, the one thing my father always reminded me, because he luckily introduced me to gardening when I was 3 years old, is to experiment and take chances. Because at the end of the day, there's no point just growing spirea in your garden. The world's got enough spirea. So, take a chance. Buy a Haskap or buy something that you've never planted before. Love it to death. And it will reward you, But I think in terms of Haskap, if you're a passionate, creative person who loves food, the Haskap berry, there is no other berry or fruit in the world that can basically provide all the tick boxes like the Haskap.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you so much for being on the call today.
My pleasure.
All of the links, resources, and websites mentioned in this episode will be posted at BackToMyGarden.com/21.